Good morning, everybody. So here's what happened. We are planning for our guests, and we wanted to shoot some shorts this morning, just to create some content. And my business partner over here, DáNiel, who is the go-getter, decided that we should actually just shoot episode 2. So this is 100% unprepared and unfiltered. But I mean, I think that's the idea, right? So if you didn't know, now you know that I'm the planner, and DáNiel is the doer, for lack of a better explanation. But nonetheless, so DáNiel, all things being equal, right? You kicking this off this morning, what is actually on your mind?
So to be honest, I think when we, put our first episode out there, I think the message could come over maybe a little bit wrong, that we are against all these people moving outside of South Africa, or some of the issues like the land issues that we spoke about, where you are born at. But for me, it's purely, I want to drive, the challenge in every single young person that want to start a business or want to do something, because clearly it's not only us, with all the the good comments and everybody. So our first episode was not received, from our side. It was not received in a bad way, but for me, it's a thing of, it almost feels like we cannot get our message over in a clear way to challenge the youngsters, to challenge the people that need to do more in South Africa. And especially you spoke something about the fear, people move or whatever, about and making that decision out of fear. But for me, it's a thing of, okay, but we know there's an issue in our country regarding employment, okay? But we saw how easy it is to put an ad out there online and start, generating some income online. That's a channel we're exploring currently. But so if you've got internet, and I heard something the other day about Nigeria, and to say people can do more in Nigeria if they just have like a weak internet link and a computer. They code like it's nobody's business. So for me, it's almost a thing of, okay, what do we need to do to get that clarity in South Africa, regarding people that want to, change the country's either GDP or bring dollars into our country, or whatever we need to do to get and to build this country. Is almost like it's almost like I also don't know exactly what we need to do, but talking about it, I think it's one part, and somebody needs to talk about it. And I think that's maybe one of the things that's pressing on our hearts. Why we're talking, why we're actually shooting now the second episode, is because we know something needs to be done. Yes, we don't know everything. We started businesses a year ago. That was one part. We believe that, okay, we want to employ a lot of people. Yes, we want to employ thousands and thousands of people. That's the plan. But for me, it's a thing of, let's start speaking about it. We have this oak or the guy that we're going to speak to now within the week or in 2 weeks' time. And I think that could be actually quite an interesting chat to have, maybe a different perspective from ours. But it's almost like, let's figure out what we need to do. Let's talk about it. Let's get people talking to us. Let's get the people, either we had some comments and stuff, but and I have a lot of people message me. I don't know, we actually didn't speak about this. But the thing is, like, what needs to be done? And it's almost, and people need to, and I actually wanted to say different words now that I don't think I need to put online. But it's almost like there needs to be a fire under our youngsters' asses. It's almost like, verstaan, they need to get out of their comfort zone. And all of us, us included, we need to get a fire under our asses to start doing what we need to do and start doing what we dream of. Because if, and I don't know if you experienced it, but whenever I travel, and specifically to the States, it's like the janitors are super pumped. It's almost like they, and with a self-confidence that you cannot explain. We're not used to it in South Africa.
Yes.
We're used to people being more shy, more with, hold back. They don't want to, give their opinions. In the States, yes, I was always like, it's almost like it comes over as just these oaks are arrogant. And it's not arrogant, they just know who they are. And that's why they achieve so much, is because it's something that's created. And yes, there's a bad side to it as well, we can see it in their schools. But it's almost like we're too scared to go out and do these things. And that's something maybe that I think we need to challenge. And even if we can talk about it in a platform like this, I think, that's, and I don't know what your view is, maybe you can, I don't want to go on a tangent.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, at least, that you ended off with now. And there's a lot of factors, I think, that impact that. But here's one thing that I think is very relevant for us in South Africa regarding that. It's the willingness to actually be wrong. The willingness to actually speak your mind and be wrong. And then also sort of having I almost want to say the predisposition when you are wrong to actually then change your opinion. And it should always be a reciprocal thing.
Well, and that's a difficult thing. And that's
100%.
the difficult part.
Exactly.
When you are shown a different opinion or actually shown some facts.
Exactly.
To be able to change your view about it.
Exactly. And that's one of the key things that we addressed when we started off with the first episode. And that is that I think the fundamental thing that we're after here is first and foremost truth. It really is truth, because I think there's so much of chatter out there that it's more entertainment than it's actually after people being after the truth, because at least that's our view, right? It's very difficult to debate with truth, If you hear truth and you acknowledge that this is truth, you need to make a decision. If this is true, then either you change your mind if it's an opposing view, right? Or you willfully decide not to accept that truth, actually believing that it is truthful. So, in our conversations, and the idea regarding what we're trying to achieve here is from that perspective. Let's talk about this, these things and all of these topics, right? But from the understanding that ultimately we want to get to a truthful answer and something that can be implemented practically, that actually drives the change that is necessary.
Or debate it and change people's views about it, because certainly we know something needs to change.
Well, and even more so, have our views changed.
Yeah.
Because I mean, and I think that's the cool thing, right? We're not sitting here on an iron throne saying that we've got all the answers, not by a long shot. We certainly are not going to steer away from the fact that we have had, that we actually do have a lot of experience, and that we certainly believe that we are wise in our thinking, and that we are teachable. So our views certainly should hold some value, but there's no way that we won't be willing to actually change our minds if there's real truth coming to the fore.
And that's the thing of, not to say we're challenging people to come, onto the show or onto the cast, but we are willing.
We should start doing that. And we must note that.
We are willing, having somebody with a different view, different perspective, but we will not allow opinions to come in here, because we've got one thing that we want to establish here, and this is to change the country, to get our country and our generation that we know need to, and we're talking about starting businesses and all these things. It's just what we think is one of the predominantly and drivers to change, a nation, but the unity that we are after. So when the opinions come, it's not the thing of an opinion, and we maybe we'll welcome it, but for me it's a thing of, okay, thanks for the opinion, but how does that change the country and the state we are in currently? Because that's what we are after.
If I can, right, and I think that is quite important regarding opinion. I think just to be clear, because I want to make sure that I understand what you're saying, is it's actually agendas.
Yeah. Sorry.
You get what I'm saying? Reason being that, obviously I think opinions do matter, but the idea is, if it's an opinion that isn't willing to change, then we're not meeting each other toe to toe, right? If we are willing to change our opinion, then the conversation should be reciprocal, that whoever we're discussing it with, i.e. whether it be me and you, whoever else it is, should also be willing to change their opinion. I think that is certainly truthful. Question though, you touched on unity now. And I think that is very relevant on multiple levels. I think maybe we should not steer away from the political side of it for a moment, but for a second, I think people need to, at least that's something that I want to lay on the table, right? throughout our experience in business, right, it certainly has felt that it's quite rare to walk into almost any conversation, any boardroom, any dealing, and feel that the environment is after unity, is after unifying, sort of bringing the same goal. It feels like, especially in our generation, that it's so opposing. Like people don't have the willingness to actually want to unify. And that's wrong, I think.
No, to be honest, I cannot recall. I actually were in a couple of rooms this last, let's say, 5 years, where I can feel the disunity, where I can feel this it's and not to say that it's a big racial, and this is from both sides. And for me, it's a thing of, and I'm going to be dead serious, I don't have a clue how we're going to change this, because I really started, not to say by changing my heart, but I believe it starts with each and every one. But for me, it's a thing of, yes, I've got a lot of friends, white, black. I really try to, and we've got businesses together. There's no, how can I say? It's almost like we want to drive the unity, but there's this, and let's say agenda, not opinion, but there's this agenda-driven mindset that convolutes just, and it's almost like if it comes in, it changes the whole room.
I agree.
And it's difficult for us to drive that in South Africa, because I predominantly think the unity thing is one of the biggest issues in our country.
Yes.
It's a super divisive. It's almost like, and listen, it becomes political again.
Well,
but the thing is
what it is.
We are after unity, but how do you establish unity when it doesn't come from all parties?
Well, therein lies such a difficulty, right? Because I think that people have been, and I mean, I say this completely at the risk of being wrong, but I think over time, people globally, right, not even just in our country, but people globally have been programmed or pre-programmed to see everything that's different the whole time, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly, but it's sort of this predisposition that in any conversation that you walk in, you always see the differences, you always see, and I'm not even just talking physical, I'm actually talking from an intent perspective, right? We're sitting across the table, you want to achieve this, I want to achieve that. How do I actually, and this is a bad word, but I think it's the right word, how do I actually now manipulate you to actually sort of concede to my intent, rather than taking the approach of saying, listen, honestly, how do both of us actually win? You get what I'm saying?
Listen, that.
And I think that is if it is something that needs to be corrected, and I think it is something that needs to be corrected, it's going to take some time, and it's going to be difficult, because change is hard, right? And especially if it's something that is rooted in your heart, right? But it is something that if you agree that it's actually putting you and the people around you and the nation and the globe in a worse position, that it is something that needs to be changed, right? And I mean, I think there's value in that. Do you agree?
100%. And the thing is, for me, it's almost like there needs to be a common cause. Even if we have one thing to say, okay, right, let's change our country. Let's all then just work together, despite of all the the history, because we spoke about the history. Listen, our country's history is not going to change. It will never change.
Agreed.
All that we can change is, how does the next 20 years look? We cannot change what my grandfather did. Sadly, I cannot change anything. We only have influence in what's to come. So if we can, rather than say, right, but let's then go for a common cause. Let's all then start, the youngsters, for instance, and I keep on saying youngsters, it's
like we're old.
Yeah.
Well,
but between 18, I believe there's something towards the nation, and I really believe there's something towards the guys that's between 18 and 40 years. I really believe the change is going to come from those oaks. And if there could be like a common cause to say, right, let us change the country. Let us then work towards this common cause to, have a drive to, let's say, each, start a profitable business within the first year.
Well, I agree 100%. And the thing is, I think the common goal is actually self-evident, right? The common goal is let's build a nation. But then it becomes difficult because what does that actually mean? Do we build a nation, on which levels do we actually build a nation? And I think certainly the first one that comes to mind is economically, right? And yes, we keep on it keeps on moving towards the whole political thing, but I think it's because we face such a political challenge in the country. It's difficult to actually, hide it, hide away from it. But the point is, that we need to build the nation economically, and then the question becomes, okay, but how do we do that? And then there comes difficulties regarding legislation and red tape in South Africa in terms of actually doing business, and all of the different factors, the noises that we hear in the countries, the different views from the political parties, and I don't want to say policies that are unclear, but I mean we certainly have this mesh in South Africa of, is it capitalistic, or is it socialistic, or is it communist? Is the word even communistic? I don't even think that's a word. But I mean, it's really blurry. It's like it's difficult to understand, and so the idea is that yes, the common goal is build a nation, but what we need is the how.
Well.
And I agree that I think the answer lies in the generation, 18 to 35, 18 to 40, because I mean, we are slowly but surely taking over, the driver's seat here. But we haven't, and I mean, please, if anybody does have some link to some information that is driving a real answer to this challenge, at least in direction, not necessarily in terms of practical steps, please share that. But the point is, we need something that is tangible as a solution, and I think it's that tangibility as a solution also lies in the fact that I think, and we're going to make it South African again now, but I mean that's just the way that it is I don't think that we can continue on the basis of excluding anybody.
Yeah.
So the question is, how does that answer actually look practically? I mean, whatever inclusion means becomes super difficult, and it becomes super sensitive, right? But we need to actually start having a conversation saying, listen, we understand that this is really sensitive, but how else are we going to get to a solution that includes everybody on all levels in a way that is actually sustainable for our children and our children's children and our children's children's children, right? If we're not going to touch this topic, it's always going to just lie there dormant, and we're going to hear noises about it, but nothing practical is going to come from it.
And for me, that's a big thing, because and I've been in discussions and debating this quite in detail with some of my friends. And the thing for me is, we need to face some facts in the country. And I 100% believe that there's a lot of, guys our age, and at least in our bracket, that started their own businesses and that really wanted to change the country, that knows exactly that the current situation our country are in is a difficult situation, because nobody can leave whatever going on currently and to leave it go on. That's a fact. We cannot let that happen, because that will be, I actually think that will get us in a worse place than we were back in the day. So for me, it's a thing of, and getting back to the unity thing, for me, it's a thing of, we need to work towards some sort, and how that looks, I'm not 100% sure, because I did not see that in my 31 years that I've been in South Africa. I did not see a form of super unity between all, race and different parties and whatever. It's the unity maybe were there around 94, but afterwards it just took a different tangent, and that's a fact. We can try to debate this. It's a fact. Nobody's better off, except some of the guys in top leadership. But for me, it's a thing of, okay, but nobody's addressing this. Everybody just goes on a tangent. Our country will go down. We will become a next Zimbabwe if something's not being doing about this. It's a fact.
Listen, I think the idea that comes to mind is, I once heard, somebody
and
that I
sorry,
really...
just to be clear, this
Sure.
is not. I didn't say it in a negative thing. It's
No, but it is a negative. It's fact.
It's a fact. So
It is a
something
fact.
needs to be done towards
Yes.
it. It's
Listen, it's the idea that, our nation might be in the pot at the moment, that frog that's in the boiling water. And you feel the water is getting warmer, but it's nice, and then it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, and obviously, ultimately, it gets too hot. And it's sort of the idea, that says, he who aims at nothing hits the target every single time. At some point, we're going to have to actually have a target that we can actually hit, and then as a nation or as a generation actually go after that target with everything that we've got. And again, this comes down to the whole unification thing. At some point, for our generation, leadership needs to actually step up and say, but guys, here's the real target. Here's the real target, and all of you can actually hit that if you work together. And everybody's got a part to play, right? But we're not hearing that. It's everything is contentious and it's divisive. And when I say everything, I mean, I'm not generalizing here. I'm just saying to the extent where the information actually comes out into the media, the things that we are privy to, I'm sure that there are things that might be unifying, but that's not the overarching message that comes through, When people speak about these issues, you can clearly hear that they're not trying to unify everybody, and that might be, if I think about it, that might be a ludicrous goal if you think about it, because can there be absolute unity? Can there be absolute unity in a business? Can there be absolute unity in a family? Can there be absolute unity in a nation? You get what I'm saying? It's a very difficult thing, but listen, I think everybody can agree that it's something that we can strive towards and really strive towards.
it's almost, for me, it's the same as I see like my vision. I need to make my vision as big as possible for me almost not to be able to reach it. And
good point.
For me, yes, I'll maybe get there when I'm 60. I don't know. Maybe I'll never get there, but I'll be damn close. And for me, it's a thing of, okay, but maybe we won't be able to unify in a sense of racial. There will always be some sort of racial, inequality. Well, not the inequality, but there will maybe be some racial, different beliefs and whatever. That could be there, no problem. But let us then, as a nation, at least have some unifying goal that we work towards, despite our differences. Because the differences, I think, in some form will be there. But at least if it's not like, because for me it feels like, yes, it's there's no common goal. It's like this guys are going this direction and they want to fight for their own like pot, if I can say.
But well, the thing is, if I can contextualize that a bit, at least that's what I'm hearing. Is it feels to me like there's so much of selfishness in that.
Well, yes.
You get what I'm saying?
So,
how do I
so
get
despite
ahead?
the differences, yes, the selfishness shouldn't not be there. But at least with these differences and at least there should be one goal. You get me? Is get this country out of the situation. So don't like me, you don't need to love me. I get that, and it's fine. We're from different backgrounds, but at least let's work towards some common goal. And I think that could drive some form of unity within the country.
Here's a thought, right? And I mean, I think it's something that we need to note. That when we do get guests on, we must really unpack this. But I mean, I hold the belief that we really need to export services, and a lot of it. I mean, there's all of the talk regarding manufacturing and all of those things that are extremely relevant in terms of actually bringing production into the nation. Because everybody understands that we need to increase our GDP per capita, right? And ultimately that means external injection into the economy. But here's the thing, right? That is going to take some time. Okay, it is going to take some time because of infrastructure. But the exporting of services is a whole nother ballgame, right? Because the digital offload is that much easier. So the idea is that to actually start increasing our GDP, actually start bringing economic growth into the country, and obviously we're sitting with a situation regarding unemployment that can also be attended to by actually implementing this at scale, is actually putting our nation in a position where we tell the whole world, guys, listen, the rand isn't strong at the moment, it's weak. So if you're going to pay us in dollars, it's going to be much cheaper for you. So you're going to save money, and we can actually deliver digital services from South Africa to the entire world. And that is a big play, I believe. I mean, obviously,
Well,
I think
we-
to implement it, well,
Yeah.
that's obviously what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we know that it works. But case in point being, this is something that our nation can really do, and we can switch it on like
And
this.
it's so easy. We sit with a lot of talent in the country.
Agreed.
We sit with
Well, dormant talent. This is
that's
the problem.
reason why I said in Nigeria the Oaks just need a weak line and a laptop. That's all they need.
Yes.
And they code like it's nobody's business.
Yes.
And the thing is, why can we not do the same? Where's the Oaks in our country that sit with their weak line? Well, our lines is actually not that weak if you go
Yes.
anywhere in the country, despite the load shedding and everything.
Yep.
But
Well, the
where-
load shedding.
there-
Right. Let's not go there.
but where's that Oaks? Because the talent are there. It's almost like they're scared to start this, or they don't know how to start this. And it's
Well-
almost just flip and start. Just get the laptop, get the line, start, do whatever
Yes.
you love, and start selling it abroad.
Agreed. But here's the thing, right? And I mean, I'm sure that there are people that's going to say, that we're sitting with so much of infrastructure challenges in the country. And when I say infrastructure challenges, that might be a light way to actually explain it. It might even be wrong. What I'm actually leaning towards is access, right? Actual access to internet, actual access to computers and phones and things like that, because it is a challenge in South Africa. But to me, the first thing that comes to mind is that's where big business needs to start playing a role.
For a fact, yeah.
It really is. And I mean, that might be controversial, and I mean, more than happy to debate it, because it might be wrong, but that's just the fastest way that I think that we can actually give access to that extent, because, it's a knock-on effect. You actually generate material access to the digital world, and that enables ultimately then the actual exporting of services, right? So there's sort of this knock-on effect. But here's the thing, right? To do that at scale is also not necessarily that easy. So there's a lot of people. I mean, government needs to play a role, big business needs to play a role, and just hold on one sec. And actually the buy-in from the individuals, right? Because it isn't that easy. There's obviously some skill set that needs to be acquired as well. The point is, it's at least a solution that does make sense, at least on a high level. Now the question becomes, how do we actually build that out at scale?
And let me tell you, Ne, for me, and I don't want to go the BE route, but I'll say it now. The thing for me is, you cannot take, the purpose within somebody, or their goals and visions, and all of us as humans are built the same way. And for me, it's a huge thing of, and I've been, debating, and not debate actually. I had a great discussion with a couple of my friends that are in the BE side, and they don't want handouts. They want to build their own business. They want to feel like they're the ones that built this. And I know this is something that, yes, they have the handouts, and it's lucky to make money quickly. But the thing is, they're still human. They still are purpose driven. They still are, that's embedded in them. So for them to feel that they build it on their own, it will always lack. It will always lack. And that's the same thing with this that I wanted to, you mentioned that you need the buy-in from somebody. The buy-in is super important, because otherwise it's going to be warehouses with internet and laptops, and there's going to be nobody building that actually, because you need the buy-in from the individual. That's why I strongly believe in, the talents, and that people need to start doing what they love. And everybody shouldn't just do their own thing. I believe that, and I know everybody on their own can not just start their own businesses. It's fine. But in a country that we don't employ, I know of a lot of companies that I worked with that's laying off people. They're not employing more people, they're laying off people. So, and that people have skills. That people, maybe that people sit in a situation where they don't know what to do because they're in the system of employment. But for me, it's a thing of, yes, we're going to give the handouts to all these oaks. They don't, deep down, if they're honest with themselves, they know they did not, do the hard work, starting a business from scratch. It's almost like the handouts. And that's not, listen, this is not my opinion. This is what I heard from my friends. They still, all of those, still go and they make their own business and try to build their own thing, because they want that, I built it, I did it myself. And that will be a longing. And you can clearly see there's some oaks that actually spoke publicly about this.
Listen, I love how you gravitate to the extremely controversial topics in an instance, right? But I mean, there's value in that, right?
Yeah.
Because I think I think here's the thing. Very difficult discussion. Very difficult discussion, because I think there is value in it, but I think it's super emotional, you know, and rightly so. Okay. Because I think that there are things that need to be fixed and rectified, right? It's the how that we need to figure out. So on that point, I think what is important is I think we must actually, you know, based on our whole idea of actually going for truth and for practical solutions, we should actually really garner a proper debate on that topic.
I agree.
You know, and really seek a truthful answer that actually works, because, and actually scratch that thing open. Really do that, because it's a difficult one. But I mean, I think it's a discussion that needs to be held, right?
It's difficult to have somebody speak public about this.
Well, I mean, listen, that's the invitation, right? And I mean, I think that might be the invitation, you know, because I think it is something that needs to be discussed, you know, and really figure out how do we move on this thing going forward. Because to be honest, you know, if I can give my opinion, for me, it's not being, I'm not for or against it, right? I'm neutral at the moment, because I'm not exactly sure what the right direction is on it, right? And that's why I'm saying we should try and get, you know, people. I think we should try and get, you know, at least two people that are extremely knowledgeable about this, and a for position and an against position, and really actually hash it out. So that's a light invitation. If anybody is aware of people that would be willing to actually have that debate, the for and the against side, you know, I think it's something that we can drive. And I mean, that's the tough conversations that we need to have. So, well, let's actually have them. Let's not hide away from them.
And just so for me as well, what I said now, it's also not just, it's not my opinion, it's what I heard from my friends.
100%.
It's and what
100%.
I'm saying is every single individual's got that, you know, that inner being of I did it myself.
Yes.
And that's, I think, one of the major issues. But with the whole thing of BE, I truly believe that the cause wasn't, you know, to screw our country.
No, I agree.
That we believe. So just to get that straight,
100%.
We're not against it. We're not for it. Actually, it's not working. That's just for me. It's I'm a fact guy, so I like to, you know, look at the facts, and it's not working. It's a fact. So
I think
I think it's something we can debate.
Well, we will, right?
Yeah.
We will. So we'll find people, because it's a debate worth having. Question though, you know, and I think maybe if you check this, because I don't know when this started, but the way that I think about it is, and this, when did they actually start with the building of Dubai as a modern city? Modern city, I mean, I don't want to be derogatory, but I mean, obviously,
I know it wasn't long.
I think it's like 20 years ago, 30 years maybe. It might be more. I mean, I don't want to lie, but if they can check it. But I mean, in Saudi, they're now starting to build, I think it's pronounced Neom, right?
It's crazy.
Something of the sort, right? The whole principle of actually, I mean, listen, there's a lot of money there. So I don't think, you know,
the oil.
But again, well, oil, right? But
maybe we will start drill for oil in the Karoo.
Listen, maybe we should, to be honest, because there's that whole topic as well. Do we have oil or don't we? But I mean, let's not go there now. The point that I'm just trying to make is, that's also the idea or the thinking regarding vision. Because I mean, listen, you know, in Saudi, they're now starting to build that city, which is going to cost, I think it's $1 trillion, and it's next level, right? It's next level, and obviously they have the capability to actually fund that. But, you know, in terms of Dubai, you know, they obviously, if I'm not mistaken, they don't have oil, and they were actually able to build that amazing city, country, emirate, you know, in a very short amount of time. And here's my question. Can we not drive something like that in South Africa? And I mean, it is crazy. It is so crazy. But the question is, if somebody could sow that vision in South Africa, surely it's something worth actually striving towards.
We spoke about it this morning, and I really believe something in me tells that I don't know what's going to happen, but in our country, we will see the dollar again strong. The rand again strong.
Strengthen, yes.
Yes, we will see it. But yes, then we need to do our part in our country.
Exactly.
It's not going to get better by us, you know, talking about all these, and some of our political leaders lose their mind about stuff they say publicly. that's not going to drive the dollar. And I know exactly what they're doing there. We're not blind towards it. So for me, it's a thing of, but it's all for, personal gain. And for me, it's a thing of, let's stop with all that nonsense and get that. I'm going to go back to the common cause, but let's then search to build that city, or let's search for that common cause to. Let's say, okay, what do we need to do? Because obviously we need a lot of money to do that.
I'm glad that
So,
you paused yourself
yeah,
there, because I know you wanted to use another word, but I mean, it is what it is.
But the thing is, we need a lot of money. And it's not going to happen by us waiting for our government, that I can promise you, or waiting for a BE, or waiting for a tender, or waiting for... That's not going to build our country.
Agreed.
That's building individuals.
Yes.
And that's actually just... Money's not moving anywhere. My father...
So here's a question.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting you, but I mean, and again, this is something that people can comment on, and I mean, or DM us or whatever the case may be. But how do we get $1 trillion investment in South Africa that's actually managed well, right? Because I mean, if Saudi is doing it, it's self-funded, right? But I mean, how do we actually do it? Because I mean, there's a lot of factors that influence this. I mean, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole right now. But ultimately, that's a starting point. What do we need to do in South Africa to get $1 trillion investment? And maybe start there and start actually doing that. Get the $1 trillion investment and actually start driving a common cause like that. Because, I mean, listen, that's going to create a crazy amount of jobs.
Yeah.
It's going to create a crazy amount of opportunity. As much as it doesn't make sense, it actually makes sense.
No, it does.
Because huge problems need huge solutions. I actually heard something the other day. It's I can't remember where I heard it, though, but it was a very short message just saying, listen, you can either grow, the what shall I say, the normal way in terms of taking small steps, small steps, small steps, small steps, or you can actually grow in leaps and bounds and actually take the leap of faith and take the leap of faith. So the idea is just this. Yes, we should continue growing, taking small steps, but there are certain things where we actually really need to take leaps, because there's no way, there is no way
country
that we're solving for this problem with small solutions. It's just not going to happen.
No,
it's just not going to happen.
And we spoke about it a long time ago, about 8 years ago, about Africa being the gateway toward South Africa being the gateway towards Africa.
Yes.
And with this investment, something like that could be driven to be a driver for the continent.
I agree.
And to actually have some, countries or whoever, I don't know who's sitting with $1 trillion. It's not going to be money just lying around.
It's a crazy figure, but I mean, that's the point.
The thing is, if there's investment for something to be done in Africa, because we as a continent need help. And not to say need help, but we need a mindset change. Because that, and otherwise, and listen, I think Africa is definitely seeing the light. I think with the help of smartphones and the internet, there's definitely people that were kept in the dark. There's definitely some light shining on Africa, and I believe it's going to be on a rapid pace. And I believe South Africa plays a huge part there, and I think the world's seeing it. You can look at the...
I think they have been seeing it, right? But they're just playing this really, really in a smart way.
Yeah, and and listen, because I don't know that solution, to be honest.
Yeah, well, here's one thing that I will say regarding this crazy type of investment into the country. But I mean, ultimately, it's so logical, right? I mean, did you check that Dubai date?
Yeah, it says so, like late 1960s, early 1970s, post the oil discovery.
Okay, so let's make it 1970, right? Give or take. That means that they built that city in 53 years, right? 53 years, guys.
So if we build now, we can see a different South Africa when we're 80.
Well, that's the point.
And that's what we're willing to do.
Don't give away our ages like that. No, but I'm okay. It's there for everyone to see anyway. But I mean, the point is, but here's the thing. It took them 50 years, odd years, to build that city. Yeah. If we do not start now, brother, we're not seeing it.
Yeah, that's...
this is the point. And that's something that this generation needs to get. If we believe that something of that level can be built here, we literally need to start now. There's no time. Well, there isn't time.
Yeah, you can build it in 30 years. The thing is, it was done in 30 years.
Sure.
Just they expanded on that.
Sure. Okay. So at least if we started, don't go there.
But the thing is, at least time is running out. We
I
cannot
agree.
wait for the government. We cannot wait for anybody else.
I agree.
It needs to start with each and every single one.
I agree.
And the influential businessman in South Africa needs to. Well, I think this is a topic that needs to be discussed.
I agree.
I saw Discovery is busy with something now where they unify people. That's great. But
Listen, that is great, but is there going to be an outcome? Listen, let me rephrase
I was part
that.
of a couple before, and there was no outcome, to be honest.
Well, yeah, so let me just rephrase it right. Is there going to be a material outcome? Because I think this is the thing. And I mean, I think everybody's sick and tired of small plays, you know, and not to discredit anybody or any initiative. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we need to start doing things. The point that I'm trying to make is that, I mean, what is our GDP per capita? It's 7,000 rand a month or something of the sort. I think that's the number. We can just double check it, right? But I mean, that is our GDP. I think we need to understand to get to $1,000 per month GDP in South Africa, you know, or whatever, 20,000 rand. Is it 7,000? Can you just double check? I think it is 7,000 rand a month, but let's say it is that. It's low, right? I think to be reasonable, guys, to get to $1,000 per month GDP in South Africa, we need to more than double it. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
We need to. That means we need to. I think our GDP is at $400 billion odd.
I think
it's an odd $400 billion. We need to just fact check that and make sure, because I haven't had a look at that in some time. But I think it's 400 billion US. The point is to more than double it. It means that we need to take our GDP to $800 billion, right? And then we're still going to be slightly less than $1,000 per capita. If you start understanding that figure, you realize that the level of capital injection that is required, the level of investment that is required is crazy big, okay? And if we're going to do that in our lifetime, all of this talk means nothing. Literally, we need a practical plan that says, listen, step 1, this is what needs to happen in politics. Step 2, this is what needs to happen in legislation. Step 3, this is what needs to happen in terms of opportunity. Step 4, this is what needs to happen in education. And then literally, and I mean, there's obviously a lot more. I'm not a politician, but the point is there's a lot of factors that needs to be taken into account. But then step by step, start driving those initiatives, right? And then actually holding the people accountable to the goals within those specific spheres, right? Or silos, if you want to call it that. So that we could get that investment. Because otherwise, it will not change. It just won't.
Yeah, it's about 12,000 rand
Okay.
per month.
100%. So 12,000 rand per month. So let's just clear that up. So 12,000 rand a month. All right. So to get to $1,000 per month, it's just under doubling it, right? I think the rand dollar now is at 19.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is a bit under doubling, but nonetheless, you know, it's still a 60-70% increase
And
in GDP.
even that could be one of the things that we run towards. You get
I agree. That's a common goal. It's a super common goal.
Super common
But it
goal.
also needs to be tangible.
That's it.
In terms of practically, how do we do this?
The government needs to give us
I agree.
outline, give us the support to build that, give us
Yes.
the backing to go get, and you know, to get the funding.
I
And
agree.
it doesn't need to be one funder. It could be.
Well, it will
let's
be
say-
a multitude. There's very few people that can just hoy a
Yeah,
trillion, right?
but what I mean is it shouldn't be just one goal. It could be one in every facet, and then run towards that. But yeah, let's not go into the detail with that. I just want to say something. So you would have seen people walking around, lights go on and off. Our light is on timers, so if nobody's walking, you know, it's going on and off, and that's the whole idea. I think we wanted to keep this as low key as possible, and as natural as possible. So yeah, it's not by the way we leave the people to walk around like this, and we just whenever we feel we want to talk, we put the cameras down and we start talking. So I just wanted to give
sense, right?
everybody that out there. So yeah, Steve, I think
Listen,
round
for an
two-
impromptu episode 2.
yeah,
To be really honest, I don't really know how that happened, but you know, there is some impulsivity within our company, which I won't point out again. But nonetheless, you know, I think to close it down, right? Honestly, we're seeking truth, and we're really seeking to start big conversations and drive them. We need buy-in. We really do, because we don't want to play. We're tired of playing. We're tired of hearing conversation that doesn't lead to fruit. We're tired of listening to nonsense. You know, so, you know, I think there are most probably things that we might have said that are incorrect.
Yeah.
But then we are teachable in
we're
that,
teachable,
right?
and at least the people know how we feel.
Correct.
And we do not come over as we know it all. We know we don't know it all, And yeah, that's why I think the comment section is so great for people to leave their comments and leave their opinions
And ideas.
and
Please,
ideas, because that drives the conversation again for the next, cast, where we can actually drive at least towards something, so that this also become purposeful and aren't just another podcast or video cast that we're shooting that doesn't have any fruit and doesn't challenge anybody, because that's also what we want to do, is to challenge the people. And even if just people start businesses, because we spoke about the whole internet thing in the communities. Thank you. Also, please make a comment or tell us that you started, so that we also know that this is not fruitless.
Yeah, because here's the thing, right? Ultimately, we believe South Africa is going to work.
Yeah.
And it's going to work for everybody.
Yep.
In a big way. Africa is the final frontier, and South Africa will play a super big role in that. And that's what we're trying to start here as best we can. 2 young guys doing our best. So yeah, thank you. Episode 2, done and dusted.